I'm teaching you a system so you can find your own style. But guess what? Throw away the system. Because the thing that's really about your expression is the discovery of yourself.
Hello there. Welcome. You're listening to Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio, episode 636. My guest today is Professor Willie the Bam Johnson. I'm Jeremy Lesniak. I'm your host for the show, founder of Whistlekick, lover of martial arts of all kinds. And that's why we do what we do, why we bring you these shows, why we have invested so much into Whistlekick, because we love you, the traditional martial artists of the world. If you want to see everything we've got going on, please go to whistlekick.com. Check out the store, check out our other websites, check out all the things that we produce for free for you, as well as some of the things that we charge for, because, well, we got to bring in some money. We got to do some of this stuff for a profit so we can continue to bring you awesome stuff like this show. And don't forget, if you find something in our store that you like, whether it's one of our training programs or a sweatshirt or protective equipment or a uniform or anything like that, use the code podcast15, get yourself 15% off. The show gets its own website, whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. That's where we bring you photos and links and transcripts and videos and all kinds of other good stuff for this episode, for every episode we've ever done. Yep, we don't put any of them behind a paywall. We continue to bring you great interviews and topic shows for free, 2 episodes each and every week. Well, why do we do that? Because we're looking to connect you, educate you, and entertain you, the traditional martial artists of the world, with each other, with things that mean something to you. And if these things that we do mean something to you, please consider supporting our Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. For as little as $2, you can get in behind the scenes. And if you're willing to give a little bit more, we're going to give you more back. Check out that website. All the details are there. You may know today's guest by name. He's been active in the martial arts world for a long time. I can't remember a time I didn't know his name, to be honest with you. And on today's episode, we talk about everything from how a movie changed his life to having fun with martial arts, to play, to some of the people he looks up to, and the passionate life experiences that connect all of these dots. It's an incredible episode, one I'm very proud of being part of, and I'm thankful that we are able to bring you. So here we go. Professor Bam, welcome to Martial Arts Radio.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on. You've done some stuff. You've been around. I bet there are a bunch of people listening right now go, wow, you're finally talking to him.
Yeah.
You've been on the list for a long time, my friend.
Yeah, hey.
I'm glad we're making this happen.
Thank you. God's good, man. I believe everything happens for a reason. That's all.
Absolutely. You know, we've got a lot to cover. There's a lot over your career and the things that you're doing now. I mean, are just as big and maybe even bigger, depending on how you want to look at it. I always like to go back. I know it's kind of cliche, but I think it's the easiest way to get context for everything else we're going to talk about. So how'd you get started as a martial artist?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to somebody about that. And that was Bruce Lee. It was Chinese Connection. You know, I can't talk about the excitement of finding that goal and that dream and that passion to want to be like Bruce Lee without talking about the why behind it. And it was, from some pain that was happening to me as a kid, before I was 6, I had encountered some, tragic things that happened during those times where, just pretty devastating for a young kid. But I was always able to redirect painful things. I mean, many people heard that I was molested and things like that happened to me as a little kid before I was 6. And I like to say that we came up in a real challenging time. So I was always able to see the struggles and the things that my parents were going through. So at a young age, I was always able to hide my pain of what I was feeling. It was just a natural thing I did. And I would not tell nobody what I was going through. I was just holding this stuff in and just pushing along, and for some reason, this one moment, my mom let me go to see a movie theater, go to a movie theater to see a movie. And during that time, remember, martial art movies was big. That was like the 70s. That's when, commercials was Five Fingers of Death, and Chinese
Mm.
Connection. I mean, you if you come back from that time, you can remember how excited you was when you seen these commercials on the TV, and the excitement of seeing lines and lines of people from block to block going in to see these movies. And this one time, my parents let me go and see this movie, and it was Chinese Connection. Man, when I seen that movie, I didn't see Bruce Lee on that screen. I seen me because I did know that I didn't want someone else to go through my pain, and that's still a reflection of my life and my wife's life today. Sometimes I put other people's cares ahead of mine, and at a young age, I was always able to do that. So here was a guy who was a hero, and he was fighting to be for his people to be more than what people was looking at them as, and he was willing to stand up and fight for justice and honor and respect and use martial arts. That was me, and that's what I seen. And Bruce Lee changed me and inspired me. And once again, during that time, remember we came out the movie theater, and you went around the street to find a stick, and you cut the stick in half and got a dog chain and cut the dog chain in half and screwed it to the stick and got some electrical tape. And you had a set of Bruce Lee sticks. We called them nunchakus back then. If anybody remember that, man, that was the joy of martial arts. And that's what had me. I was flipping on pissy mattresses. You would hang out in the movie theater all day until the movies closed. And those things started with Bruce Lee, but then the Kung Fu movies and the black exploitation, and honestly, stealing the karate magazines and stealing the Maso Yama thick karate books that had the colored pages. Am I making sense here?
You are. You've got a couple of years on me. I didn't grow up in that era. I was born in '79. I started training in the '80s, but we've had plenty of guests on the show who came up in that time. And while, there are some personal aspects to the story you're telling that we haven't heard, this, I went to the movies, I saw Bruce Lee, it changed my life. That's something we've heard many, many times.
Yeah.
Now, most folks coming out of the theater at, 6 years old, 7 years old, are probably going to forget a lot of the details, but I'm going to guess you're not one of those people.
No, it's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What was it like when you watch that movie? Because you're identifying a single movie, and honestly, it's not the one that most people pick from that era. Most people are talking about Enter the Dragon. You're talking about Chinese Connection. I'm going to guess that you remember the difference that made in you from start to finish.
Yep.
What was it? Obviously you're coming out. I made my first set of nunchaku as well. Wasn't dog chain and sticks. It was stick and a random piece of rope I found on the porch. So I get that. I totally get that.
Right. Yeah.
What happened? What happened there? You come out and obviously some light bulb went on and you said, something is missing. Something needs to change in my life. What did you understand that to be? Because you're young. You're super young at that point. But somehow you understood it well enough, and I'm guessing went to your parents and something happened.
Well, I didn't go to my parents because remember back then, nobody really understood the benefit of martial arts. It was just karate movies and kicks and punches. Nobody truly understood the benefits of martial arts. It was still a mystical Chinese thing, but I think the thing that really registered with that at that time was that it was the end of the civil rights struggle. That was when, we were, Martin Luther King and everybody was walking and pushing towards, freedom of expression. And remember during that time, it was the greatest cultural expression in the urban communities around the world. That was the start of soul music turning into hip hop. I mean, remember, kids was on skateboards. They was on bikes. Kids were running up and down the street. You could leave the doors unlocked. I mean, if you haven't came up in that time, right now you would look at inner city or the violence in the world today, and you were like, man, when are we going to ever have a great moment? But after that struggle of the civil rights struggle, and we were a part of the most culturally impacted community ever. People was trying to rebuild. People was trying to express themselves, and Bruce Lee's struggle was the same struggle of any culture or race of people, that was struggling. So that's like a universal language. Every race, every culture had to struggle and overcome adversity or obstacles or whatever it may be. And that's what registered. That's why Bruce Lee, and then think about martial arts was of those it was of people who were struggling and was oppressed and they were trying to rise up. And that's what registered to me. It was like, it was art. It's art, man. That's what people don't understand. There's a side of the urban community that when the drugs and the crack came, we forget that we can leave our doors unlocked. We forget that kids can sit out on a sidewalk and share frozen cups, and we show respect to the elders and even the guys. I mean, look, they show bits and pieces of it. Even the guys that did bad things, that were drug dealers, they said, "No, man, stay in school, do what I say, not what I do." I mean, go back and read and see history. That was like creative expression. So that's what Bruce Lee. It just reinforced that. And then when you think of Bruce Lee movies, he was showing everything I'm talking about. He had every multicultural race of character or culture in his movies. And he was talking about how he was just so open to different ways and methods, which was basically the urban environment. You got along with everybody. I'm not preaching all about what's going on now, but really what's going on now is no different than when we came up. But it was about respect. It's the one thing that martial arts registered within me. I mean, even though it was dysfunctional stuff going on, there was still my parents say, show respect. My dad say thank you. My dad say, don't you disrespect him. They didn't understand martial arts, but they did understand something about good human dignity and rights and standing up and being a good role model. They just didn't have the courage, or they didn't have the knowledge, because they was carrying so much stress on their own to stick to it and say it. They knew what to say. It's just that I don't think they had the courage or had the know-how or the intelligence at that time to choose, I'm going to do it this, rather than trying to find a way to survive and make sure my kids can eat. Am I losing you? Am I making sense here?
No, you're making sense.
And that's
and your passion is coming through loud and clear, which makes it even clearer.
That's what inspired me, man. Sorry.
How did you? Never apologize. This is your story, my friend. This is your story. You cannot tell it wrong. How did you go from? And I love this visual of making your own nunchaku and lifting magazines and Kyokushin books. How'd you go from there to the next step? I would imagine somewhere in there's a step with some formal training. When did that happen?
I mean, remember during that time, they had small dojos and you would go to the dojos. I would stop in because we didn't have money. Sorry, bro. It wasn't because my parents didn't want to pay for the lessons. But once again, we got to remember, kids that have parents and people that bring them in to study of martial arts today, they're blessed, because I wouldn't say the parents didn't want to pay for it. They didn't understand it. All you seen was the violence on the movie screen. We didn't know the mystical benefits of martial arts at that time. We knew it was something high, but I don't think everybody understood that. So, I would go to the different dojos. I mean, there was Korean dojos, Taekwondo dojos in the inner cities, which people don't realize. Remember, before the karate schools came to the suburbs, they were in these inner cities. Without the urban communities, there would be no martial arts today. There would be no Bruce Lee today. All that came from the inner city. Remember, nobody was coming to see karate movies outside of the inner city. That was the only place you can house these movies. So you had little dojos on the corner, and I would go to the dojos and sit in the chairs, and I could comprehend what they were doing just like that. And I would write it out on a stick, man, and then I would go home and I would practice. Sometimes they would have a free class, and I would take a free class. And I know the teachers, that's what's missing in teaching, because I know those teachers knew that when I came there and I seen them what they did, I came back the next day and I showed them exactly what they were showing their students. I showed them that I remembered it by sitting on the sideline, and they would do something else to give me something else to go away with. That's love. That's what martial arts is missing. That's when the teachers see that person over there that might not have what I need them to have financially to come into school. That person has a drive and has an art and has a desire that can help my school or my organization elevate to another level. Sometimes when we put money ahead of a passion and the person's desire, we don't get the raw, authentic expression. That's why. Are you following me here?
I am. I'm definitely following you, and I agree. There are plenty of places where money ruins things, and it's one of the great debates within martial arts: is can martial arts be taught in a pure sense, with a great deal of integrity, if money is involved?
Yep.
And people get really fired up about it.
And you said it, pure sense. And those instructors took this little African-American kid and did whatever they can do to give him a skill and let him go home in the projects. And remember, during that time, I had these, my project house was like a Bruce Lee museum. Every magazine and every picture that I stole of Bruce Lee was all plastered on my wall. So from the ceiling, from the floor all the way up to the ceiling, all around, I had these pictures of Bruce Lee or Jimmy Wang Yu or whatever I can get. There was not a crack missing on my wall that did not have some image to keep me inspired. And then I would people would see me walk through the projects with like a tree stump that I was taking to make my own Wing Chun dummy, or a sandbag to make my own sandbag and top and bottom bag, and make my own broadsword with a piece of 2x4. I just had this. And I think that's what's missing in kids right now. The one thing we had is that we had the ability to be creative. We made it. We did whatever we could do to make something that fit our passion and our desire. And my mom never said anything. Nobody. They would laugh at me. Said, "Look at that black Bruce Lee going down the street," and they would laugh, and it would hurt because I know they were saying it to make me feel bad. And then there were other people that were in the community that was doing the exact same thing, and you would be challenging each other and doing. It's like that's a whole nother culture that people probably, man, that never existed. When I'm telling you, it is how it was. And one teacher that I would say stood out the most was Tony Lynn. And Tony Lynn, who is the brother of Willie Lynn, who is my instructor's Master Brown's brother, who brought the system of Tien Shin Pai to America. So they had a Tien Shin Pai school in D.C. and they had one in Baltimore. And that was one of the schools that I would go to, and I would see him doing the weapons. And that's what I've said. I know he knew what he was doing. He was teaching me on the side, because as a teacher, and I'm going to speak even me as a teacher, I don't teach students. I discover their greatness within. I tell people, don't say I taught my kids. What I do is watch my kids, and I see a student go through something. I say, that's good, man. Why don't you add this? So we build on your creativity. That at the end, that's what makes you great. It's not somebody teaching you something. You already got greatness inside of you. So I want to help you out. Let's discover that greatness. And when we discover it, let's build upon it. That's how they teach wushu in China. They took and gave you something that complemented your personality. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I want to stay there for a second. I want to unpack that, because you're talking about something that we've barely talked about, over 6 years of this show. This idea of teaching. When we think about outside of the martial arts, if I say, a teacher, what are we thinking? We're generally thinking about public school teacher. And what is the most cliche reaction of a student in public school? They try to get through the day as quickly as possible. They have no desire to learn. A teacher can't make you learn. They can present information.
That's right.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, is that your experience both as a student and as an instructor now, you're talking about helping these students discover their greatness. You're presenting information. You're helping them build themselves up to be the martial artist that they want to be or deserve to be.
That's right. And that's what Bruce Lee was. But let's think about this. When we understand the culture, that's what hip hop is. That's what music is. An artist says, I want to sing. They start singing. Before you know it, through practice of singing, they develop a confidence where they become Aretha Franklin. And now everybody want to be a part of it. Now she's a legend. But when you take away that freedom of expression from a person, no, it's about discovering. And I always tell my students, I get mad at them when they looking at me for answers. I'm like, why are you looking at me? Get lost in yourself, man. Have fun. Stop being afraid to like fall down on your own discovery. Fall down. It's not until you fall over yourself that we can really find the truth within. When you holding back and trying to be cautious, no, that ain't truth. That's a lie. Stop lying to yourself. But that's what made me who I am. So all those methods that I've read that Bruce Lee was talking about and Jeet Kune Do and Maso Yama was talking about, and let's say martial artists as a whole, because that's what we forget. We talk about mixed martial arts. Everything been mixed since it came to this country. At the beginning, that's all they did in the 60s. That's all they did in the tournaments. That's what the Billy Blanks and Steve Sanders and Ed Park and everybody. Bruce Lee just add fuel to the fire. So when people even say, oh, mixed martial arts, what is mixed? And hip hop is just mixing music together. Well, mixed martial arts today is just what? Grappling and kickboxing and Thai boxing. But didn't Bruce Lee bring Thai boxing here? This ain't nothing new. I'm sorry. You just got me pumped up here, man.
I love it. Hey, would you rather be boring and dry? Because I wouldn't. Yeah. I love the passion. The passion is show me a great martial artist. I'll show you somebody who's passionate and not just about martial arts.
It's about
martial artists are passionate people. You can't devote yourself to something so deeply and not have it spill over to other aspects of life.
And I think that's when we talk about stand on, like what I was saying, when you think of Maso Yama, you think of all these people. Bruce Lee got me started, but I was inspired by all of them. I was inspired by Sonny Chiba trying to carry on the legacy of Maso Yama and in his movies, or inspired by Jimmy Wang Yu trying to show you the diversity and in the struggle and expression of the arts. I was inspired by Jim Kelly. I was inspired by Chuck Norris. I was inspired by everything that dealt with martial arts was an inspiration for me. And anybody tell you was different from me. And I think that's what you learn when you creatively just want to find a way to be better. I just never want no kid to go through the bull that I went through. And I understood that. And I will still put my life on the line for that this day. I understand that whatever I was going through and people was doing to me, it was wrong. So I had to grow up early. I had to learn how to fight and do all this stuff before I was even 13. I mean, I used to write letters to Hong Kong or call. Here's what's so crazy back then. You could go to the library and you can get black belt magazines in the library, or you can go to the library and they would have books on the top movies in America and China and Japan. But what I realized is that inside those books, they also had telephone numbers to Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest movie studios. What do you think I did? I called them. My mom would get the bill. She was like, what are you doing, Bam Bam? Were you calling Hong Kong? You can't do this. But
what was the goal of the call?
The goal was to tell people I wanted to be a movie star. I realized that if I could get in movies, I could change more people. I didn't do this to run a school. I did this to be like Bruce Lee and all those people that was on the screen. Think about it. Art. I can touch more people through a song than I can do in a dojo. I can touch more people through a movie or a TV show or a book than I can do in a dojo. I didn't physically meet Maso Yama, but I met Maso Yama through all those pages that I turned in that book. That's what art is. That's what we miss. That's what we miss. That's what the ancient ancestors of all civilizations said. To pass it on, record your purest original thoughts. Let it go. Don't question. Don't analyze it. Let that truth come out. And then when you read it back, you'll discover that, whoa, that was in me. No, it came through you. So it can be bigger and make a bigger impact for other people. That's what martial arts is for me. Sometimes people get caught up and think I'm talking about point MMA, and I'm a martial artist. Whatever I need to do to impact or touch a person, then I got to do it. That's what I have to do. That's what they did for me. Am I sounding crazy? I'm sorry, man.
If you're crazy, I'm crazy too, because this is all making sense, and I am on board 100%. I want to talk about Maso Yama because it's a name that I think most martial artists know, but it's interestingly enough not a name that comes up on this show very often. You've mentioned him probably I lost count. I think it's 8 or 9 times. So clearly, this is somebody who had an impact on you. When, where, why? How did Oyama Kyokushin first kind of enter your perspective?
I think when I read his story and I understood that he, if I'm correct, when he came home, from the military, he got in a fight, he murdered a man, and he felt so bad about murdering a man, and he went away to find himself. He went away to truly understand how to control his energies, his anger, and all the things he felt. And through hitting the trees and training in the woods, when he came back, the only person he felt, the thing that he began to demonstrate his strength on was a bull. He was Bruce Lee of the Japanese people. He did the same thing that Bruce Lee did for the Japanese people. There would be no MMA or full contact like we see if it wasn't for Master Oyama. There wouldn't be, Let's just look at that. I mean, he was, but he was about the art. Look at him. He was knocking out candles. He was talking about meditation. He was the complete martial artist. And anybody that you see come from that era, all of his students wrote books. They did what martial artists are supposed to do. What happened to that? It ain't in no daggone dojo. The dojo was set up to commercialize and help us be able to make money, to be able to make a comfortable living and take care of our families. And that's good. But guess what? If you really want the real training from me, you can't pay for that. Ain't no price tag on that. That's you got to earn. And that's still the same way in my dojo. Yeah, you get the curriculum. But truth of the matter is, like Bruce Lee say, all the truth lies outside of the curriculum and the structure of some other man trying to tell you what he can teach you. How the hell can somebody, I'm sorry, man.
Keep going. I'm loving this.
When people start talking about what my curriculum going, how you going to make somebody great with your curriculum? What you're doing is enslaving them and making them you. That's the problem with the sport, karate, and everything now. Everybody doing one thing because you imitated something from one person. You structured it. The structure should free you from the structure, not enslave you. That's the problem with martial arts now. How the hell could you keep on how could I sell you a program that you selling at your school and you teach it just whatever happened to the discovery of your own art? Oh, I got it. What happened was that when your teacher challenged you and it was time for you to mature up and suck it up, to realize that you got to go through hell and you got to go through a busted lip or a discomfortability on a physical, mental, emotional level with your teacher, rather than trying to grow beyond that, you decide to go out and go get your own master's degree and get your college degree and get your business degree. And now you're a 7-time grandmaster with your own style. How the hell could you be a master of your own style when you quit before the miracle happened? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's unpack that. Because you're stirring the pot, and I love stirring. Anybody who knows me knows I love stirring the pot, because I think that whether on the other side of that conversation you agree or not, you've thought, and that's always been my goal with this show, is that we make people think. So you've talked about a few things here. You've taken a shot at modern sport karate. You've taken a shot at people starting their own styles before it's appropriate.
Right.
Which one you want to go to first?
Well, let's go to style. I'm going to use something real simple since you got me on it. Let's talk about music. A kid can come up in the ghetto or anywhere and he begin to create a message, which is rapping, and he begin to talk about his struggle. That's his own style, his own flow. All of a sudden, they come up and they find a way to speak their truth to their own style of expression. Nobody controlled them. Nobody stopped them. And for some reason, they changed the whole culture. They didn't impact more people and became one of the most wealthiest, musical genres ever. But it would start from nothing. Isn't that how martial artists started? But somewhere along the way, the gatekeepers or the wannabe intellectual people, you got to remember something. Intellect don't save your life in the street. I don't care what nobody say. Intellect, the moment you think about what to do is done. Boom. Bruce Lee showed you that when the guy said, so Bruce, tell me how fast you threw the watch. He said, that's how fast I am. Look at that. And well, what did I do? Oh, you just responded to the moment. Art is style is the moment. You don't teach nobody a style. You can teach them a system. That's what I tell my students. I'm teaching you a system so you can find your own style. But guess what? Throw away the system. Because the thing that's really about your expression is the discovery of yourself. The problem is that most of the old school teachers can't face a kid that's discovering themselves, because at some point in time, that kid is going to be better than you. That kid's going to challenge you emotionally and mentally or whatever. And, oh, I dare you challenge me in my dojo. You can't do that. Well, that's why maybe I wouldn't have never been accepted in the modern day dojos when I was a kid. I was, because I am going to challenge you. Punch me, I'm going to punch you back. That's what I learned on the street. I mean, and we're going to keep on rising. You don't get good if you don't learn to understand your weaknesses or the things that you're running away from. But guess what? When you got money and you got prestige, you got titles, you got all this stuff, I guess you can run away from whatever you want to run away from. But the cream always rises to the top, because the true artists, they find a way to come about and they bring about impact. I mean, they trying to get kids to find their own way. Martial arts seems like the only thing, other than MMA, that's probably why people love it. You don't know what's going to happen. But isn't that how martial arts used to be when it first came to this country? Nobody in tournaments fought like that, like nobody else. Nobody. All you see is a bow staff and a comment. What the hell happened to the wide variety of expressing yourself and let the best expression stand out for that day? It don't mean you're the greatest. It means for that moment you stood out. We're afraid of that because then it affects your bottom line. It affects your money. Look, I was broke when I was in the hood and I found wealth by finding my art, and I'm still going to find wealth. Ain't nothing that nobody could do to me today that can stop me from loving God and serving God and doing what I need to do. Until you can understand the hell that I went through to become the man I am right now. And I'll tell you honestly, on expressing that, there was a time when I was on TV and I was winning tournaments, and I was that person trying to follow the box and follow the infrastructure and don't say nothing and shut up. But guess what? They still treated me like I was nothing. They still, you rewarded me, but you never really recognized me for who I am. Today, I will never not be what they say. The saying says, to thy own self be true. I will always be true to myself. And I will make sure that anybody that I come in contact with, I want them to find a way to express themselves. And whenever you find conflict with me, and it's not about the righteous things or the good things that I fought to get away from, leave me the hell alone and get away from me.
Wow. I don't even know how to tack a question.
I'm sorry. That's just my truth, man. You know?
I love it. Yeah. The goal of each of these episodes when I talk to someone is to unpack and help them tell their story. And you are doing a far better job than most of tearing those filters away. You're giving us the real raw you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that trust in us and me, in our audience to do so. So thank you.
And you know, the one thing I want to add to that is that I just trust in God, because God brought me from hell to live today. And I'm a good man and a good father and a good community leader. So what I already been dead. So ain't nothing that any human being could do to me that I can't do to myself. That would be far worse than what anybody else could do. So I guess I'm just trusting God, because look where he brought me. I just told you I was a little kid in the project calling Hong Kong, mom on welfare, getting food stamps. You know what I'm saying?
I could just imagine. I could imagine the look on her face when she opens that bill and looks at, because anybody who's younger today and has, and has never had a landline phone doesn't remember a time when you had detailed bills that would list out the number you called.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're calling overseas, that's a long number.
Yeah, that's right.
So your mom's opening that bill and she's looking at the total and she's going, what the heck's happening? Who called what? And she's looking down through and seeing these calls with these very long numbers that very clearly are nowhere local, and the charges associated with them.
Yeah.
And probably looking at you. Were you an only child?
No. I had a sister. But she knew it was me, because when my sister moved out, it was just me and her. Okay. And I had my little dojo.
So she's looking at that number and looking at you.
But you know it.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
It's funny when you say that, because, along with calling Hong Kong, even at that time, I understood. It's funny how, because I can't really put it all. I'm sorry to be going all over the place, because it's kind of hard to put all this stuff. And I try to tell the story the way I think it should be told, but it's kind of hard, because I'm like, damn, that's right. That happened. Whoa, that's right. That's how this happened. So it's like even a new discovery for me. But when I was learning, doing these travels, I did get involved with an instructor at a community center called McKim's Community Center. And, because at that time, even at young, when I started getting confidence and guys was challenging me and I was winning the challenges, and I'm not talking about like no death fights and nothing like that. I'm talking, I ain't going to say I was like in a blood sport underground ghetto battle. No, it was just kids being kids. You know how we come up and, and I was able to rise to the occasion and work my martial arts. And so now kids wanted to learn from me. So I was this neighborhood guy that was watching out for the kid, like a Robin Hood. I would, beat up the bullies and we didn't call them bullies at back that time. It was guys that took your money. And I got this thing to start teaching kids in my project apartment. Now I'm like, teaching kids in the project apartment, still doing my thing, writing letters to like people all over the world, along with calling and now get this. The letters didn't have the spelling was really all messed up. But I still tell people today, it's not about what you write, it's about the passion that comes through the letter. Because you'll find somebody that will correct that. And I guarantee if you look at most magazines or anything, you'll see some misspelled words and misspelled sentences. So I kept doing that, and you would not believe it. Before you know it, I was able to convince people like 7-Eleven and social workers to get behind me because of my passion and sponsor me to go to these karate tournaments. Are you following me here?
Yeah.
Do
you remember the first one?
7-Eleven.
The first tournament.
Oh, the first tournament that I went to was the All-American Championships at Henry Cho's and at the Madison Square Garden. See, because I knew what the tournaments were because the Karate Illustrated had the ratings. Back then, if you through all of these things of training and trying to get out the project, trying to get away from the struggle and the things that I was going through. But now as I'm getting older, I'm looking in these magazines. Now my struggle is not just about me. Now it's just me and my mom. My dad's not there. Nobody's there. My mom's on welfare. I'm seeing how people treat her. My mom got 2 hearing aids because she's handicapped. She can't hear. People treat her like she's a piece of dirt. So, oh boy. Woo. So it went from me trying to discover me, and I had to grow up and take care of my mom. So to get in a movie, to change my economical status was to be able to get my mom out the projects and get my mom, a nice house and all these things. And back then, remember, you seen all the people that was in movies, they were winning karate tournaments. So they were on the front cover of Karate Illustrated magazine or the front cover of Black Belt Karate magazine or whatever those magazines were. So my path was following those same people, Cynthia Rothrock, Chuck Norris, Mike Stone, all those people. I did exactly, when I meet them people today, I tell them that they changed my life. I don't think they believe me. When I tell Ron Van Cleef that he motivated me when I wanted to quit, I don't think they truly believe me because I guess people say I'm some type of great martial artist. I'm just a person, man, and I don't want to live up to none of that. But I have been inspired by all of them. So knowing these things that I had to do when I was doing, and I knew where to find the tournaments at, SME Shows at that time was one of the biggest tournaments in the country. So what did I do? I was able to convince someone to sponsor me. And I said, if you could just give me enough money to get on a bus, just to get on a bus and enough for the entry fee so I can go to a tournament to try to become famous and wealthy for my mom, I would appreciate your help. And they came through. And I got on that Greyhound bus. My mom didn't know where I was at. I was like 17 years old. Nobody knew where I was at. And I got on that bus. And I went to New York City, man. And I got off, and that's when New York downtown was like, it was vicious. It was like the Warriors. We ever see the movie The Warriors with gangs and all this crazy stuff? And I get off that thing. I was so afraid, but I knew I had to make this commitment. I had to go to that tournament. So I got a cab, and I didn't realize that Madison Square Garden was right down the street from Port Authority. So I get a cab, and he drives me around the block, and take me to Madison Square Garden. And I went in. I didn't know nothing. Nobody in my family never did this. So I didn't have a blueprint. And I went into that tournament. I paid that entry fee, and I seen all those people. That's when tournaments was huge. And to go to New York, you had to be good. You just don't go to anybody know back then, especially doing Kung Fu forms. I was doing broadsword that I had taught myself. And I go in, Madison Square Garden, And I still remember who it was. It was Aziz, one of New York's finest weapons competitors. And I tied up with Aziz in a weapons division in New York City. And I won. But I was so afraid of missing the bus because I didn't know what I was doing. I ran out after I won, and I was supposed to have been on TV meeting Ron Van Cleef, but I couldn't stay because I didn't want to miss the bus. I didn't want to get stuck in New York. And I went back. And when my mom seen that trophy, I think at that moment, every phone call I made her the happiest person in the world. And I continued to travel and stay on buses for 3 days, 5 days, to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to go to Diamond Nationals, to get 8th place and bring those trophies back so my mom could be happy. And it got so much to a point where she would say, Bam, Bam, no trophy. I would hide the trophies before. Sorry, man. Woo.
That's all good. It's clear that this means a lot to you.
I'm sorry. Every time I do these things, stuff come up that I just never dealt with. And it's like new discoveries, and but I would play tricks with her, and I would tell her, no trophy, man, I didn't win. And she would go sit on a chair, and she was like, Dad, Bam, Bam, no trophy. And then I say, surprise, here's a trophy. And she would just be so happy, man. She would just sit there and stack all those trophies up in the living room and would sit there days and just look. And I guess maybe before my mom died, I hope that I made her happy. I hope that she got a chance to see that every phone call and every struggle and every discomfort that she made, the life I lived today and my wife lived, cherished, and my kids cherished, and everybody cherished, is truly because that was a life that I wanted for my mom. And she just died before she could see it. But that's what the first moment was like for me. I'm sorry.
No, it's powerful. Did she get to see you compete?
No. She never seen it. She just seen the trophies and seen me making, because I used to make my own karate uniforms too. I used to sew my own wushu uniforms. I did everything. Everything that I do today, I made myself as a little kid. That's why I say don't rob a kid of their creativity. That's why I don't teach my kids. I let them play. A friend of mine named Jerry Fontanez, he said something that I think people probably will steal. One time, sometimes we can be so strict in trying to tell kids, no, stop, sit down, go over there. And we was doing an event, and the kids was getting on our nerves because we was trying to have a conversation. And I said, everybody stop, sit down. And Jerry said, I got it, Bam. I said, what is it, Jerry? He said, all right, kids, stop having fun. And we just broke out and started laughing. And we said, that's exactly what we do in the world. We make children stop having fun. The reason why I'm who I am is because during that era, I was able to have fun. I was able to discover creative things that I still live and has became a way of life for me today. I played with martial arts. It's not the joy when you practice to play with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a word that's come up more and more on this show. And the more I hear it from different people in different contexts, the more I think it really is the right verb. We play martial arts.
That's right.
That's how we learn.
That's right.
It's how every little kid learns, through play. It's how every small animal learns, is through play. And for some reason, we get to some age and we decide that that's not the way to learn. The way to learn is to pay someone a bunch of money to have them throw words and pictures at your face and hope some of them get in there and stick. When what are you supposed to do with that information once you get it? You're supposed to go test it out, whether it's science or martial arts or anything else. And so ultimately, you still have to go play with it.
Yeah, but you're playing with somebody else's interpretation, not yours.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
Hopefully, I've been on topic. Hopefully, you're getting a lot out of me that I never had an interview here.
Can't be off topic. The subject is you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about music. You've brought up music a couple times. And anybody who knows me well knows that I also grew up with hip hop. It was the genre that spoke to me the most. And anybody who's listening who really knows, especially through the 80s and 90s, hip hop, there was a very, very strong crossover with martial arts, specifically Kung Fu flicks. You know, these lesser known Shaw Brothers movies. In fact, anybody out there has heard of the Wu-Tang Clan. That was the thing that their first album was just covered with, was samples from those movies. And I remember, you know, I was training at the time and listening to that album going, whoa, these guys like martial arts too, you know, and it really spoke to me. Talk about music for you. It sounds like there's quite a bit of synergy between the way you view and train and play martial arts along with music.
Well, I mean, my history is before the Wu-Tang. I'm talking more when we had block parties and, you know what I'm saying, all that was happening right there in front of me. That's when you had a block party and, you know, you had people out there playing, you know, on the streets and kids coming up and listen, you know, my dad playing James Brown, you know, in the house, I'm not understanding it, or playing, you know, the soundtrack to Superfly and Shaft and all those movies. I mean, from all those movies, and you hearing all these soulful sounds, and you hearing I mean, come on, the 70s was the greatest time of soft rock, man. You know, Peter Frampton and Kiss and, oh, come on, don't get me started. But, you know, so the martial arts and music were an equal part of the urban environment. That's why hip hop, remember, come on, let's think about it. Breakdancing comes from martial arts. Forget the Wu-Tang. Let's think about them wheelbarrows and things they're doing. And why was they called, you know, Grandmaster Flash? They took it from the martial arts. I'm talking about Jimmy Wayne U and all. I ain't talking about like when it started. I'm talking about before the 36 chambers and all that stuff. I'm talking about Five Fingers of Death and you know Chinese Connection and all those things. When those things had an impact and they inspired these people to start expressing their music, and that's how hip hop came about. I know what it was for. I mean, come on, but remember, my dad always was around. My dad is like 89 years old, so you always been around people that was like rhyming and flowing and doing all that stuff. So I came up around that. You know, that's a part of my makeup. I always trained to music. It ain't something that I do because I'm trying to sell anybody anything. We always train to music in the background. And I think, you know, even for me, when I see what hip hop did, you know, it's just like martial arts. When they came up with the hop, the hip hop, oh man, every kid in the neighborhood was singing that. It did. Don't get me started when they came out with It's Like a Jungle sometimes and make me wonder why I keep from going under. That right there changed the whole generation of kids. Because finally, when we had, and I got to put some history in here to help people understand. I fight for the culture that people forgot about. We were kids of the 70s, and because of so much creative expression and things that was happening in the movie industry in Hollywood. Come on, let's remember what movies saved Hollywood during that time. They were black exploitation movies that saved Hollywood during that time. So you got all these things happening, but then all of a sudden, at an era when people was able to be safe, respectful, and loving and caring and all this stuff that I represent today, because what I represent today with character don't come from the martial arts. It comes from what my parents taught me. My dad and I might did bad things, but they always maintained that I show respect. And even in the projects, you know, even those guys that was on the street, the problem that we have on the street with violence is because people don't show respect anymore. Once that code is gone, but that code goes to where I'm going at. In the 80s, for some reason, when crack hit those communities, that's what destroyed everything that I'm talking about right now. And maybe I might be going too deep for people. So that's what hip hop evolved from something that was dance, fun, excitement, have a good time, block parties. Come on, look at all those rappers back then. They were talking about celebration. They were talking about happiness. And, you know, even who is it? Was Big Daddy Kane in one of his songs. He said one time in his song where he said, I'll take you there. He said where, you know, in the neighborhood where the houses could leave their doors unlocked. It was like that at one time. But when something is put into a community that destroys everybody's psychic, a drug that was once considered a high-end drug only for the wealthy, and now is given to people with chemicals that's taking the best of people who had no control. And now you see zombies. Now, the one thing I will say about RZA, there's some books that he wrote about that element, because that's all they was trying. RZA and them came and said, no, everybody, let me tell you about what's going on in our communities. Let me tell you about the zombies that are walking around. That's what happened. I know, and when I speak, I'm speaking beyond. I'm not even speaking about, when every day that I say, I'm not speaking about how I can kill somebody, hurt somebody. I ain't even about that. That's the weakest thing that could even happen. I ain't even worried about who got the best style, who could kill. I done seen people shot, died, killed, whatever in my community. What I'm talking about is that I do know that guys that at one time wanted to kill each other, when they found a way to respect each other, they were able to keep on functioning and getting along without bringing about more pain and destruction in that community. And what I got to do is make sure I speak and tell people, I understand what you're going through. I was there. I was a kid, but I made it out. Through all of that, through being a part of the change, through all of it, it was the music. When the hip hop music became more powerful than the rock and everything that was on the airways, especially when conscious hip hop came about like that in the 70s, oh man, that saved a lot of our lives, man. Don't even talk about that. It went from Black Folk Magazine to all of that. Those things saved my life. And if anybody think about it, anybody that knows, when I was competing, and I was one of the first people doing flips in competition. Just go back and do history, because I was taking the street gymnastics to the competition, but then I started bringing music. And everybody know what I was doing. And I can say it now because I don't compete no more. For every time people cheated me, I would probably start with a lyric from Snoop Dogg and go into a Y50. So what I was doing, I was telling you, forget you, and a rap lyric that was clean. I still had it up since with that. But I was taking, think about those intros from them 80 rap songs and stuff. They was telling you a story. I would start my music because I knew as a competitor, if I play hip hop, now they might be playing it all the time, but when I was doing it, I could say it, they called it black music. That's what judges said, up there, come band with that black music. So I was taking and mixing the Snoop Dogg, the Ghetto Boys. I was even taking Luke Skywalker in them, and I knew how to blurp out the stuff before they were blurping it out and mix it with Hawaii 5-0 or Enter the Dragon. So I kind of like got my message, just like we was doing on the street. I said, forget you, I don't care about you, and then I let you rock to your Hawaii 5-0 because that's what you identify with. And then at the end of it, I said, see ya. So I got my message across. When you thought you were cheating me or hurting me, I was just expressing myself. I got a chance to build myself up. I be going a little bit too deep here.
No, you're not. You're not. This is awesome. The way you're talking about music and the way you're talking about martial arts, there's a lot of commonality. There's a lot of commonality through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And it's reminding me that a lot of the criticism I hear of martial arts today, you could actually make of a lot of music today, especially modern hip hop. What do you think about the modern era for each? Do you pay attention to what people are doing as martial artists today? Do you pay attention to what hip hop is doing today? And what do you think about?
Yeah, I do, because I can't abandon the responsibility. One thing that Billy Blanks told me, and I need to throw this story in. Billy Blanks was probably one of the most technical martial artists I've ever seen on the planet. And when I was that little kid, the littlest kid, the youngest kid amongst these great people, I used to be sitting around and seeing Billy and seeing George Chung. I was amongst them. I was just that little kid on the bus. Arlie Lemus called me. She said they used to call you the bus boy because you was the only person that would catch a bus all those days. And I remember I used to watch Billy Blanks, and I would be so admired because he was so quiet. He was just so technical and so serious. And I was never fortunate to get on the teams and none of that stuff. And, but I remember this one moment, I guess it was after something that came out. It was an A&E documentary that showed a part of my life and my son. And I was on a Wesley Snipes show when Wesley did Blade. And we were all there doing this Wesley Snipes show for the first Blade. And Billy Blanks grabbed me and said, hey, can I talk to you? This is the first time, I'm telling you, after all these years, Billy Blanks ever spoke to me. And he took me in a room and he sat down and he brought me to tears. he told me what my mission was and how important what I'm doing is to continue to be the person I am and go on and set an example for so many other people. This is Billy Blanks. It's like a Chinese movie. My wife and them looking for me. I'm in this room for like almost 2 hours. They had to come and pull me out. And before I left Billy Blanks, he gave me a book, which is his personal Bible, and said, whenever you lost, read this Bible. And where I'm going with this is that he was a man, once again, that was sharing his art. He was being true to helping me try to be able to find myself and become the best person that I can possibly be. This is so you had those type of people that really care. When George Chung, I can tell you stories about every great martial artist, Stuart Kwan and all of these people. But I think what happened today, I stay around because it's my duty to not run like other people run and leave some aspect of the martial arts messed up like it is. It's my duty in my own way to fix and bring the solutions. I ain't just going to say me, but me and my wife and whoever I come in contact with, it's our duty to try to fix it. I can't run away from it. If it blessed me, I can't just get up and leave. And that's what Billy and many people told me. I gotta carry on that. I gotta carry on what I have found to be the truth for me to find my own way to tell my story. So when I look at the sport karate, yeah, I still follow it. I think it's too robotic. I think it became, but once again, when you put money over top of art and sport, you get what you get now. Everybody put money over here. Come on, I've been a part. If anybody question what I'm saying, everybody got to remember two things. I was with the business industry when it first started. I was a student of Nick Kokinas, who started all this stuff. I was one of the first NAPMA clients, Century clients, all of them. So I ain't just talking up the top of my head. I ran a dojo at 17 when people came in the door and said, where's the teacher? I said, I'm the teacher. They said, how's a black man going to teach me? Where's the Chinese teacher? So when you begin to, and a lot of these people that's talking and doing all this stuff, you wasn't nowhere when I was there. When I talk about wushu, I went to China and got certified in mainland China, at the Beijing Physical Culture Institute in 1985. So I ain't just talking off the top of my head. So when I look at what I see now, what I see is that you put dollar bills and statistics ahead of the people. You made your contract amount more important than the people, and you got robots. How is a robot going to be able to defend themselves by themselves when trouble really comes their way? You teaching robots, so the art can't evolve like it did when it was at its richest back then, because everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's doing the same kata. Rather than going outside the box to evolve, you going inside the box and trying to be like somebody else. How is that art? That's the dojo. You trying to do the same thing. You trying to do the same thing the next person did. So you package. It's just I'm not against nobody, but what I realize is that if it wasn't for Bruce Lee and George Chung and everybody of that era, even Black Belt, everything that made me tap into my art and who I was, if it wasn't for those things, I don't know how I would have became the person I am today. Even hip hop music. When I went to jail, the thing that helped me get out of that trouble was listening to Poor Righteous Teachers, Kool Moe Dee, Gangstar, and all those people that let your conscience be free. Come on. You might think that your kid ain't learning something. Come on. Even modern day rap, when you listen to Da Baby and some of those rappers, there's some songs. I'm going to tell you one right now. Kendrick Lamar. But the new J. Cole, oh my God. I'm sorry, you got me.
We have the exact same taste in music. We really do. We really do. We could probably do a whole follow-up episode bouncing songs back and forth.
Have you heard
you're picking out the modern rappers that I actually really enjoy.
Did you hear the new J. Cole?
I don't think so.
Oh, you got it. Come on, man.
As soon as we're done, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Oh my God. You talking about conscious? You talking about got through the cracks and saying some stuff that just shocked the system? But you know what then happened? The airways put what they want you to buy. They put you what they want. They go into your membrane over and over, just like moving billboards, just like all that stuff. And you end up buying stuff that ain't the best. Real hip hop is still underground. I don't care what nobody thinks. Right?
Yes. Can we say the same thing about martial arts?
Yeah, it's still underground. That's right. That's why I still love to go to Baltimore and talk to the people on the street. I love to take my students to the hood and let you go and compete. Because if you can learn how to function under that sort of chaos, and that kid that might not have technique but got heart, spirit, and desire to take your head off, and you can stay calm, then guess what? I know you're gonna be good. I done fed you for life. I'm sorry. I'm against everything that people take. They gonna probably say, Bam is a rebel now. Man, did you hear that? Did you hear that podcast? Hey, I'm just me, man. That's all.
As you should be. That you've talked about TV and movies, and I know you've got one coming up soon, right? That's about you.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the documentary. Yeah, see how much I'm paying attention.
Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I have the BAMS documentary that was put together by Robert Parham, one of the most sought after independent action film directors right now. Shane Strawn, the editor, Antoine, the beat maker. So everything's in-house, and my wife and my team. But it really it talks about kind of like what we're talking about now, but it goes real deep. I think a lot of people, when you hear some of the other parts of my life, and you realize what I had to go through in the city, in Baltimore. And I did everything that can happen to a person in the inner city. I did it, and it happened to me, and I survived it, and I thank God. And I've seen the highest levels. That's why when people talk about money, it's like, if I really wanted to get rich, I'd have kept on doing the bad stuff. But understand the bad stuff, there's consequences called jails, institutions, and death. I've been to jail. I've been institutionalized. So the next thing for me is death. So I had to decide on, how do I want to die? Do I want to die serving God and, being a good person? Or do I want to die out there trying to take somebody else's life? And the documentary had to show a side that I know and I'm trying to make a point here is like sometimes you hear people speak and they talk to people and they be cursing and yelling, and screaming and da-da-da-da-da. And some people can get away with that, but I understand that who I am, I can't get away with that and be what I come from. But I need people to see how I truly feel. In this documentary, I just went off for a couple of moments. I need to say it how I feel. I mean, the band that you hear now, the survive in those streets, I can call you names and I can say things to you that I'll make you cry. I would be on the telephone, even doing illegal activities, and we spoke in codes. Gills that is there a wizard? Those are levels that people, I don't think. So when I be trying to explain to people that I know I done turned around, I know I'm a blessing from God. This documentary, I told him, I said, no, I probably will never do it again, but I need one where I can that's gotta be me. And I still was hindered because it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to go back to that predator that I was. I mean, I was a bad person, and that bad person was a reflection of my dad being a bad person. And when the only way I could be that bad person, that I had to, in order to do something that I didn't want to do, was to be involved in those illegal activities. I had to put things in my system and live a certain way in order to be amongst them. And I was the best at what I did. And I just needed to, in this documentary, for any kid that's out there, that's saying, yo, I want to get money. Yo, you don't understand. I need them to understand that, yeah, I understand. My first friend, one of my best friends got shot 9 times in front of the building by another best friend. And then that best friend, when he finally got caught for what he was doing, he went to jail for life plus 50 years. And I sat there in the courtroom seeing them do that. And these guys don't know nothing about karate. But I guarantee you, I would bet my money on them before I bet my money on a martial artist. I done seen guys where you had to be searched to go up in a project building. And in this documentary, this is how powerful God is. People gonna get a chance to see the actual projects that all these bad things happening are no longer standing. How in the hell would I know back then that I would be filming this to be shown as something this day? This is when I was a kid. So even people see it's like, oh my God, and if you understand what it was like prison. And then even in the documentary, I get a chance to show little kids flipping like I flip in the back alleys of the projects. This is real. This ain't stage. This is all real stuff. You get a chance to meet my dad and see how gritty he is, to realize that he don't care nothing about he done been to jail and been everywhere to hell and back. I need people to see that. So when I'm telling people, it's like sometimes when I'm teaching people and I say, try this. And when I'm teaching a student or teaching someone and they begin to question me saying, try this, I get mad. I'm like, just get away, man. Just go somewhere else. You know why? Because you're trying to test what I'm saying based upon reality. Truth is based upon the moment. To survive the moment, you got to be in tune to the moment. Maybe if I make it to the other side, I can analyze, but I ain't got no time to analyze rhythm. Come on, I used to be, and that's what it talks about. It shows though, when I was homeless and everything. And I'm like, look, when I was homeless, I didn't know what I was doing, but I made it. When I became a single dad, before I became a dad of 5 kids, I didn't know what the hell I had to do when I was home. When I was living in a abandoned building, or I had to get custody of my son coming home from jail with $20. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but look at me now. But I knew what not to do. So when I'm teaching you, you begin to question and analyze. Get away from me. See, because on the street, in order to survive a hustling game or whatever, when a guy say, take this package, go over there, bring me my cut, your cut, go do it. You better not once show this guy or anybody on the street that you're afraid or that you thinking, because then you're dead. And that's the same thing in life. And what I needed in this documentary, I need people to understand the band that you seen in the A&E, that ain't me. The band that you seen on the WMAC Masters, that ain't me. I wasn't ready. I wasn't confident enough to be the man I am right now. But when I seen how, and I try to tell it, when I seen how everything that I'm doing and how many people say, well, man, show me that what you're doing is working. Well, I guess to have so many kids in Hollywood living the same dream that I'm living in every type of movie that you can imagine, and then FBI and all this stuff. Why am I the person that got to be like, criticized, or why do I have to prove to you what I'm teaching you, or why do I have to prove to you that I'm worthy of your respect when I done already produced that through my kids and my students? Isn't a true reflection of greatness is what you can do for another person? And I done went back to the communities that I destroyed, and I done got proclamations and rebuild it, and I still go back. As a matter of fact, the movie premiere is right in the same movie theater that's around the corner from the first dojo that I opened. No, that's what I need people to see. It's beyond like description, because only my sister and my wife and my family and people in the city, even guys that used to sell drugs with me, like, yo, you coming back to the city. Thank you. I'm teaching their kids now. That's what that documentary is showing. It's so truthful. It was at the film festival in Vegas, and they were like, man, people was in tears, man. This is real. And that's what I think.
When can we see it?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
When can we see it?
It'll be released by Maverick Entertainment on all streaming systems, August the 17th.
Oh, that's before this is going to come out. So it'll be out. So we'll do our best to get links collected and everything on the show notes page. Make it easy for people.
Yeah. So we got that out. That coming out. And then we got another movie coming out that's starring my 2 little sons, called 1 out of 100. So everything that I do now is just once again, think about it. Remember the kid that wanted to, and I say this for anybody that's listening. Remember the 6-year-old kid that said he wanted to be in Hollywood and make movies?
Yeah.
I did all this myself for my kids. So at the end of all of this talk, I think the most powerful thing is, don't let nothing stop you from your goal. When you have something that you know can make an impact with people, and I can't be this without Master Brown and Oso Cassell and Garcia Davis and Kenneth Park and all my teachers, and most importantly, my wife and my sisters. But because they all held true, and they kept on telling me, when my sister said, no, don't be like Bruce Lee. I need you to strive to be like Bam Bam. Be better than Bruce Lee. Do it your way. And I'm not making a statement saying I'm better than Bruce Lee, but I know one thing. I probably have did more to understand the connection of my culture and my expression of martial arts than any other Black martial artist that I know of. So that's the truth that I represent. I need you to understand my culture, because what I teach is my expression of what took me from 6-year-old to where I'm at right now at 57 years old. I ain't even supposed to be. I was supposed to have been dead before I was 19. Dang, God must have had a hell of a journey for me, man. So was that good, man? What you think, man? You got some raw stuff from me.
This is great. This is one of my favorite episodes in a very long time. If people want to find you, website, social media, email, any stuff like that we can share.
PointMMA.com. Yep, that's it. Point him in the and people
Easy.
can personally call my number. People say, why do you, I'm old school. You can call, if you really going through something and you really want to talk to somebody, I ain't bigger than that. 301-455-3997. That's right. I ain't no star. I'm just a man, and my duty is to help anybody. So, but if you call saying asking for some autographs or something, I'm hanging up on you. But if you have a struggle, that's different.
I love it. This almost feels anticlimactic, but the way we end our episodes is, I ask the guests to give some final words, whatever that means to them. So how do you want to leave it for the audience?
I think it's just what I am. Protect the next generation. Be a living example for the next generation, and maybe some kid don't have to be alone like I was to find my dreams. And don't shield them from creativity. Let them enjoy themselves. Just support them and be that safety net for them. It's all about the next generation. And to the old masters, give the torch up, man. Stop holding on to it. Stop trying to block it. Give it to them. Then you'll live longer than what you can imagine if you pass it on. With no hidden motives, no hidden agenda, none whatsoever. That's it.
I think one of the things I enjoyed about this episode most was the complete openness. You've likely heard me talk in past episodes about how much I appreciate guests being open. Well, today's episode is as good an example of being open and the power that can bring as anything we've ever brought you. I hope that you took something from today's episode, and if nothing else, you'll recognize that being who you are, being true to yourself, is as powerful as anything that you can do. Professor, thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing what you do, continuing to do what you do, and trusting us with such a powerful story. Head on over to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. Check out all the stuff we've got going on for you there. Sign up for the newsletter so you can stay up on what we're doing, and consider supporting us, whether that's through Patreon or picking up one of the things that we make, or if you want the free options, just tell people what we're doing. Help us grow in the martial arts community. And don't forget, we've got this great strength and conditioning program that you can do at home and doesn't require any equipment. And I will personally stake my reputation on the fact that if you follow it, you will become a better martial artist. Why? Because I designed it. And, well, I know what I'm doing. Ha! If you have guest suggestions, let us know. Email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. Make sure you're following us everywhere on social media. We are at Whistlekick. And don't forget that code podcast15 gets you 15% off at whistlekick.com. I'm done for now. Until next time, train hard, smile, and have a great day.